Hello everyone and welcome to the latest Opinion poll tracking video from the Gavin Partridge YouTube channel for the next UK general election for April 2025. So here we go again, I'm going to bring you more polling data. We've got another prediction from electoral calculus, just updated a couple of days ago based upon opinion polls that were conducted for the next general election during March 2025. We will go through those opinion polls as well, go through some of them, and we're also going to have a little prediction for the local elections that are coming up, I think, on the 1st of May. So, got important local elections on the way this spring, as we always do, through the electoral cycle. Every year there are a set of local elections, and this year the local elections, I think, are going to be on the 1st of May. So, I'm going to have a look at a prediction for those as well via electoral calculus too. So, please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the videos and the content on the channel. So everyone for doing that. We do one of these tracking videos every month, and we will do so right the way up to the general election, which is likely to be in 2028 or 2029, so a long way away from the election. But it's interesting to chart opinion as we go along. Right, anyway, let's get going. So, in 5, in 4, in 3, in 2, in 1. Boom! And here we go. Electoral calculus, latest prediction is now Labour short of an overall majority by 137 seats. That has changed from last month when it was Reform short of an overall majority. So, Labour now back in the on the top of the prediction, if you like, and we shall go through the numbers with the greatest number of seats. We shall go through the numbers in a moment. So obviously there has been a little shift towards Labour during March. Let's see what's happened then. So we've got the party column just here, 2024 votes and seats column just here, and the predicted vote seats column just here. So for the Conservatives, they are on a predicted seat share of 183 seats. That is up from the 121 they got in the 2024 general election. There's always a margin of error with any polling and predictions. So at the high end, the Conservatives could be as high as 297. At the low end, they could be as low as 67. Labour on a central seat prediction of 189 seats. 189 seats. That's only up about 10, I think, on last month's prediction. But it does place them in the driving seat now for this month's prediction anyway, in terms of Labour being short rather than Reform being short. At the high end, Labour could be as high as 331, just about managing to get an overall majority. Remember, it's 326 for an overall majority, but really it's 323 because Sinn Féin never take their seats. At the low end, Labour could be as low as 89 seats. Liberal Democrats are on a central prediction of 63 seats. That's down on the 72 they got in election 24. So Lib Dems down a bit. The high end could be on 84, could be as low as 27. And by the way, the 189 for Labour is down on the 412 landslide, but they got in election 24 as well, by the way. So very, very, very significantly down for Labour compared to what they had at the last election. Reform on a central seat prediction now of 143. That's down about 50 on on the central seat prediction from last month. So there has been a shift away from Reform, and Labour edging up a little bit. I think the Conservatives have edged up a little bit as well. Greens on a central prediction of 4 seats. They could be as high as 23, could be as low as 2. SNP, 43 seats, they could be as high as 46, could be as low as 15, and Plaid on 2, could be as high as 7, could be as low as 1, and then could not be other parties, but Northern Irish parties, for example, down there. That gives us a central overall seat prediction for Labour of 189 seats, leaving them 137 seats short, a long way short of an overall majority. It will be a very interesting outcome. What would we do with that? Because if you put Labour there, 189, together with the Liberal Democrats, 63, and the Greens, and even the SNP, I don't think that gets you to 323 or 326. I think would Conservatives and Reform get to 326 or 323. So it would be nip and tuck, I think, there. Whether they could do, but I suppose the one scenario that would work would be Conservative and Labour, like a grand coalition, such as we had in the Second World War. That unity government, a national government, that would get over the line for 326. But it'd be very interesting. There'd be a lot of false trading and a lot of drama if that was indeed the outcome of the election. Well, these are the opinion polls that prediction is based upon. So we've got our overall lead column just here. You'll notice there's not as much of turquoise blue during March as there was in February. There's quite a bit more red, so that's the reason we have had that shift from Reform to Labour being the overall biggest party there. So the first poll of the month of March was YouGov down here. They had Labour with a 1% lead. Labour were on 26%, Conservatives were on 21%, really bad poll for Conservatives, and Reform were on 25%. We have a Find Out Now poll with a 1% Reform lead. So Reform on 26, Labour on 29, Conservatives doing really badly on 21%. More in Common gave us a tie just here, 7th to the 10th of March. So we had Labour and Reform tied on 25%, Conservatives just a little way back on 23%. Another Reform lead from Find Out Now, 3% Reform lead, 27% Reform, 24% for Labour, and 21% for the Conservatives. Going upwards, we have another More in Common poll, Labour and Conservatives tied. Made a DeltaPoll had Labour and Conservatives and Labour polled, so tied, I should say. So 25% for Labour, 25% for Conservatives, and 23% Reform in that DeltaPoll. I think that's the first time DeltaPoll has had a tie between Labour and Conservatives. Quite a big Reform lead in this poll just here with Find Out Now. So Reform on 27% with that poll, 21% for the Conservatives, really bad poll for Conservatives, a really bad poll for Labour actually, 22% for Labour, 5% Reform lead in that particular poll. Technivote gave Labour with a 4% lead, so 27% for Labour, and Reform and Conservatives tied on 23%. Opinium had a tie as well. They tend to be one of the better polls for Labour, but that particular poll, 21st of March, had Reform and Labour both tied on 26%. And then you have a Conservative lead, which is something that we don't see very often at the moment. So a Conservative 1% lead just there with More in Common, 25% Conservatives, 24% Labour, 24% Reform. It basically looks like we've got three parties with a quarter of the share of a vote, doesn't it? Like we've got Conservatives around 25, give or take, and Labour around 25, Reform around 25. So 25, 25, 25. That's what it looks like, really. Doesn't it? And then the final 25% kind of shared out between all of the other parties, the Liberal Democrats, Greens, etc. Another Find Out Now poll with a 3% Reform lead. What is notable is that the only pollsters that are giving Reform a lead is Find Out Now. So all of the turquoise blue here with Reform leans coming from those Find Out Now polls. That doesn't mean that it's wrong, it just means that the other pollsters aren't really finding out now. Aren't really finding out now Reform leans. Well, we come up to the top here, and we can see the most recent poll. So we've had a BMG poll just here, which gave Labour a 2% lead. So we have Labour 26, Conservatives 24, 24, and Reform 23%. Sorry about I'm not mentioning Liberal Democrats, Green, SNP, Plaid, etc. But, you know, I can't mention all parties on this video because I've got to get through the video, else it's going to drag on too long. Well, we've had a YouGov MRP poll just here as well. That's appeared recently, giving a 1% Labour lead, 24% Labour, 21% Conservatives, and 23% Reform. So that's a 1% Labour lead over Reform. And then a rather interesting poll just here, again from More in Common, with a 1% Conservative lead. It looks like More in Common, really the only pollsters that are picking up on Conservative leads, by the way. But check out Labour on this poll. Labour down to 21%, Conservatives on 26%, and Reform on 25%. So that is a 1% Conservative lead over Reform. And Labour way back on 21%. That would be absolutely catastrophic for Labour and the government. It looks a bit of an outlier. Most of the pollsters don't have Labour quite that low, although, of course, we did have the Find Out Now poll there with Labour on 22%. By the way, it had Lord Ashcroft, which actually found Labour on 30%. That's the biggest Labour lead during March, giving Labour a 6% lead. Labour 30, Conservatives 24, and Reform quite a way back on 19%. That was around the middle part of March then. So those are most of the polls that we had during March, and that the prediction from electoral calculus are based on. Note, we still haven't had an IPSOS or a Murray or an Ipsos Murray poll yet. Still waiting for one of those to come after general election. This is how the overall polling graph is looking. So quite interesting. There's been a definite tick down for Reform. You can see the Reform line. Remember, we had crossover last month between Reform and Labour, and the month before that we had crossover between Reform and the Conservatives. So that looks like it was the peak of Reform's trend line, just there where Reform goes above Labour. Reform now down here, and Labour just ahead of Reform, although Labour has ticked down very slightly themselves, but not as much as Reform have. Conservatives have lifted up, which is quite interesting as well, though yes, it hasn't yet reached crossover between, or re-crossover between Conservatives and Reform, but there's been a definite lift up in the Conservative trend line, a definite drop in Reform trend line, and a little bit of a drop in Labour's trend line as well. And then we see the Liberal Democrats and also the Greens gradually lifting up. That's probably in relation to the local election campaign, the smaller parties getting a little bit more publicity, you know, getting noticed a little bit more because of the local elections. That is something that we do see when we have local elections, by-elections, and ultimately general elections as well, particularly for the Liberal Democrats. So that's how the tracker is looking. This is how the government approval tracker from YouGov is looking. So on the latest poll, we've got 68% disapproving of the government. We have got 14% approving and 18% don't know. So the number of people that approve of the government are still underneath the don't knows, which, as I explained consistently through the last parliament, is usually a bad sign for the government. And as far as disapproval is concerned, well, not looking great for the government, really, is it? 68% disapproving and only 14% approving of the government. We have, of course, had a very substantial change of the government from Labour to Conservative, and there was like a rally, there was like a honeymoon for the government, but my word, it was only very, very brief. Then that disapproval line starts going back up. The government hasn't got to the levels of disapproval, of unpopularity that we had through 2022 to 2024 from like Liz Truss and through Rishi Sunak's ministries. The government hasn't got to that level of disapproval yet, but it's not all that far off it, to be honest, and for a new government, really not doing very, very well at all, I don't think. But we'll see how that goes. You know, people might start getting more favourable towards the government as we go along. Lastly, for this video, we're going to have a prediction for the local elections. This coming from electoral calculus. So their polling is showing that the Conservatives at the local elections in May are going to be on 25% of the vote. That's down from 46% they got in 2021. Remember, the local election in 2021 were fought just as Boris Johnson was getting the vaccine, the vaccine bounce. They've rolled out the vaccine program, and so the government and Boris was like getting quite a bit of quite a bit of support for the vaccine rollout. It came at just the optimal time for the 2021 local elections. In that local elections, the Conservatives got 1,420 councillors. This time their 25% takes them down to 688 councillors, so they lose. It's about 800 councillors, but they're losing there. They're losing a lot of their councillors if that prediction is correct. Labour, with this poll, on 18%, getting 285 councillors, which is down from the 341 councillors they got in 2021 on 22% of the vote. So Labour doing even worse than they did in the local elections of 2021, but not losing that many councillors. And the reason is that they haven't got that many councillors to lose for this particular set of local elections. If these numbers carry on further on through the Parliament, then we will see Labour losing a lot more councillors. Because later on in the Parliament, in the local elections, they did start picking up large numbers of councillors. So, but for this particular set of local elections, they haven't got that many councillors to lose, so they can't lose that many. Liberal Democrats are big gainers from this set of local elections, if this is right. So they're on a predicted share of 17%, getting 401 councillors. That is up from the 15% and 274 councillors that they got in the 2021 local elections. So big gains for the Liberal Democrats. But the real gainers from this local elections, if the prediction is right, is going to be Reform. They weren't standing in the 2021 local elections, so they don't have any councillors to lose. They can only make gains, and they're on a predicted share of 25%, gaining 697 councillors, presumably most of those coming from the Conservatives and some coming from from Labour as well. But most of those gains will be coming, I think, from the Conservatives there. Greens getting 44 councillors. That's actually slightly down on 47 they got in 2021, and others getting 132, down from 165 that they got in 2021. That would be like independent councillors and that kind of thing. So big losses for the Conservatives. A really bad night for the Conservatives predicted there. A pretty bad night, well, to be honest, a very, very bad night on the vote share for Labour. They would be very concerned, I think, to be under 20% if that share of the vote verified. It will be masked by the fact that they haven't got that many councillors to lose. But, you know, another year, another set of local elections, metropolitan boroughs, for example, and Labour would be having a catastrophic result, getting just 18% of the vote. Quite a good night for Liberal Democrats and an excellent night for Reform. We shall see how it goes. There may be another local elections prediction from electoral calculus in April. If there is, I will do another video in a week or two's time, bring that to you. Let's go back finally to electoral calculus's general election prediction. So there we go. For April 2025, they're saying Labour 137 seats short of an overall majority, and we shall see how that plays out when we do our next general election tracker video, which of course will be at the beginning of May. Don't know exactly what the date will be, but it will be early on in May. Right, well, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this, what's going to happen with the local elections, who's going to be the main gainers and the main losers on that. And again, let me know what you think about the predictions and the polls as well, that that prediction is based on for the general election. We'll see you again with more very, very soon. For this one, that's all for now, and thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.